Our second guest for today is Dominick Lombardi, who is an artist, writer, and curator. Lombardi wrote for many art journals, including the Brooklyn Rail, New Art Examiner, Art and Antiques, Two Coasts of Paint, and the New York Times. As a curator, Lombardi has worked with numerous artists on such shows as Multiverse, Altered Logistics, Redux, Altered Logistics, Contemporary Collage, and Appropriation Art. A Horse Walks into a Bar, I Am, Foodie Fever, Waterworks, Where to Draw the Line, and many more. His catalogs and books are I Am, High and Low, a 45-year retrospective, and Unfolding Object, Water Over the Bridge, Science, Sinners, and the Collective Unconsciousness, The Right of the Human, and again, many, many more. And you can see and read more about Lombardi's art, curatorial, and writing on his website, ddlombardi.com. But I will ask Dominick to repeat his website and tell us more about his work in a minute. Dominick, this is all amazing experience, and we are so happy to have you here, or to have you here soon. Welcome, and tell me what brings you here to our quiet corner.
Yeah, well, we were looking for a sort of a new point to start from, to look at the art world and sort of connect. I think you know from your experience that it's a very social world. It's not like the kind of things you see online. It's more face to face and getting to know people. And I thought that Norwich area, which is New London, in that Niantic, in that area there, looked very compelling, and I we thought it was a good base for us to come up and live and check out the art scene and see the different artists, and of course the food and everything else in that area was very enticing. So that's what brought us to that area. And of course the institutions. Yes.
Yes, and I know that you wrote to me, but I hope you also connected with Norwich Cultural Council and
Mhm.
Lyman Allen, of course, and again many, many more institutions in your area. Norwich and New London is actually much more exposed to the arts
Yes, that is correct.
than our area, but we are always looking forward for collaborating and for establishing tight connections
Yes,
with your
yes.
area.
Yeah. Well, that I think is the gift of being an artist and being a curator and a writer, is connecting with people and understanding other people's aesthetics and culture, and just getting out there and being involved in the conversation, which is very important to me. Uh, Not just to the studio is extremely important. It's the sanctuary, but you need to get out there and communicate and get your art out there and your ideas for curating, and your thoughts in writing. So that's been my pleasure, and just the way I've lived my life. It's its own reward, I think, very
Yeah,
much so.
I agree that our profession, a curator and art critic, is very social.
Mhm.
You really cannot write in isolation. You have to talk, you have to meet, you have to make people aware of yourself. But then I guess you always want to go back and isolate yourself to produce these new ideas. That's the best way I found for myself. How does it work for you?
I think that's pretty much says it for me. The social aspect of it, the curating, the writing is public, and the studio is, like I said, the sanctuary. It's a private luxury for me to. I mean, people always are shocked when I say this, but I'm entertaining myself. I'm keeping myself happy, living the life that I feel most comfortable with. And the studio is definitely the basis of that, for, for sure. So yes, and it's I'm in there by myself. So I'm making all the decisions. I'm pushing myself. I'm congratulating myself, and I'm telling myself you know, to work harder or whatever. It's up to me. Yeah. So that's a great feature.
And how do you write? Do you write in isolation? Do you write on subway, in a train, on your phone, on a piece of
Yeah,
paper?
yeah, it's interesting. I was doing a talk in the city recently, and one of the curators, David C. Terry, said to me, you wake up as a curator and a writer, and then you go to sleep as an artist, So the mornings are writing, curating. That's when I'm most linear, when I'm the most able to, you know, communicate in a reasonable fashion. And then the studio is just, whatever direction I want to take. So it takes me a little while in the day to get that mindset. But once I get in the studio, I immediately start. There's no sitting around with a cigarette and a glass of wine, staring at my work. I get right to work, and I spend every second in there trying to produce something that's, for me, is something that is important. So that's pretty much the process.
Wonderful. And when did you write your first story or your first review, and how did it happen?
Yeah, that was, I think it was 1998. There was a new publication in Bedford Pound Ridge area of New York, which was called the Record Review. And I suggested to have a section of their paper to review exhibitions, because in that area there were quite a few galleries and museums. And they said yes. And I just started writing a weekly review. And I think it was maybe a little more than 2 years later, I was writing for the New York Times. So it was a quick transition, and I was inspired to write because I guess, being in Connecticut, when you're outside of the art centers of the world, you're sort of in the shadow, and it's hard to get ink and collectors and such. It's just more spread out. And I felt, being in Westchester County at the time, there wasn't enough writing. There wasn't enough critical writing. There wasn't enough galleries. There needed to be more. And the same people that were going to galleries and buying artwork were the people that were living in my community, but they were doing that in New York. So I felt, they're here, they're in this area, but they need to know more about what's happening in their own backyard. So I think that was the reason why I got into writing, and have continued since then.
So it's now been almost 20 years
Yeah,
of,
almost 30.
oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, almost
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah. And it's been good. It's helped me, I think, in my curatorial process, because it's put me in a position where I have to write more and look more at other artists and other visions. And it's helped me to refine what I do. I don't think it's changed my process, though. It's just helped me to focus a little bit more. and be maybe a little more efficient, I think. I think they all relate, they're, to me, it's the same. I'm using the same instincts and the same parts of my thinking and aesthetic. It's just, like I said earlier, one is more linear and the other is non-linear. The art is non-linear. So,
Yeah, when you are a curator, you have to write a curatorial statement. You have to sum up all the artwork in the show. And I guess when you review an exhibition, you also uh, come with the curatorial perspective, right? What's missing, what you would do differently. Yes,
yes,
writing and curating is a very integrated ways of thinking about art. It's very
yes,
true.
yes, yes. The writing and curating is a common language, whereas the studio is my language. So I guess that's the big difference.
Wonderful. Who are your writers to go to in the New York Times or in Hyperlogic? Who would you recommend our students to read?
This is a very bad answer, but I'm gonna, um, I I prefer not as much as possible not to read other writing because I want to have my own voice, and I'd rather read a novel or a historical fiction or a biography about another time or another place, again, for my own benefit. And I also avoid big retrospectives of artists because it takes me days and days and days to filter out all that information and come back to myself. I remember, this is getting a little off track, but I remember that when we went to the Prado in Madrid, I think that was a couple of weeks before I was able to flush everything out and find myself, back to who I am and not to be influenced, by Goya, of course, and Bosch and all the things, Velasquez, all the great work that I saw. So I am better served, I think, when I'm able to separate myself. Not, but there's so many great writers. I would hate to just, I mean, I can't say I've never read any other reviews because I have, and there are so many great writers, but the proportions are so low because of my sensitivity to getting inside that article and it's hard to escape it for me. So I'd rather just avoid it. Yeah. I know that's a weird answer, but it's the truth.
Mhm. No, it's a good answer too. So coming back to Connecticut, what are you hoping to achieve, and where do you think you will go for your first meeting? Would it be a hygienic art residency?
I think that's definitely a possibility. There are so many institutions there. The Lyman Allen Art Museum, I thought looked interesting. The Catherine Fosnett Art Gallery and Center, hygienic, as you mentioned. Of course, your institution, the Slater Memorial Museum looked interesting as well. I think for the historic aspects and how they filter that through contemporary art. I'm probably most interested in seeing who else is there, what other artists and curators are in the area, and getting to know. I mean, it's a learning process. I don't want to come in and, with guns blazing and, just, I want to learn more about what's going on in the area first. And, I'm anxious just in general, just to meet people. Like we were saying, it's a very social thing. It has to be organic, the way it happens. And whether it's with my own art or writing or curating, I'll probably start with the writing, I think, because that's the way I learn best about what's going on. Because, you need to do research and you need to put yourself out there. So that's probably the first step.
Yeah, I would be happy to send you our plan for the exhibition plan for the next year.
Yes, I'm
And
very
then
curious.
and the year after. I have really exciting exhibition programs planned for almost 2 years ahead. It's
Excellent.
really it's really
Excellent. It's a
beautiful.
nice space too that I
Mm,
could see. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
I
you.
like the exposure of it. I like the way it's situated. So it's
Yeah,
important.
the gallery is part of the very contemporary state of the arts building, Fine
Mhm.
Arts Instructional Center, where we have performances as well and art and studios for our students. So it's been a very interesting time to program for the gallery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. I will definitely be by for sure. Very soon.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what else would you like to share with our students? Give them some advice, please, because they are graduating in a
Mhm.
week time. And,
Mhm.
being a young person in contemporary world, graduating with a degree from Eastern, it's pretty anxious time. So,
Yes.
what should they hear from you?
Yeah. Well, thinking about art, never lose that thought process. And to if you're not uh, extremely wealthy, get a job that support your art, and never feel like you're separated from your work in the studio enough, because once an artist, always an artist. Do as many things as possible in the arts to get to meet people. I know artists that work in galleries. I know artists that are registrars. They do installations. They write press releases. They write grants, and it's just a way to meet people. I would say pretty much all of my jobs have been some way touching the art world, uh, either working with other artists or teaching or working in film and meeting other artists, working with museums, uh, volunteering my time, uh, uh, working on boards for galleries. It's a social thing, and I think it's a lot of work. You have to get out there and just be be seen, go to openings. And little by little, you're building this wall, one brick at a time. You're building a house one brick at a time. And each person is important because you never know. I've met people in the city, and 15 years later, I was in their gallery, exhibiting. So you just don't know. Stay in touch when you meet somebody who's nice and open and engaging. Stay in touch. It's just like anything else, you have to build relationship. People have to trust you. You have to trust them, and just get to know what's out there. And if there's nothing out there, then create something. So it's pretty much what I do. Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
my, yeah,
Thank you so much, Dominic. And again, please come and visit us anytime, and I will be happy to share what's coming in the gallery. And
absolutely.
welcome, welcome. We love to have you. As more is better and more is merrier.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to it, and I will look for your email of what's coming up.
Yes, and one more thing before we disconnect, where people can read and see your work.
Okay, there's a couple of ways. My website is pretty easy to find. It's ddlombardi.com. If you also Google my name, D Dominick Lombardi, you'll get articles and curatorial projects, images of my work, and my website has a link for my email. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch is through the website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.